There comes a moment in every journey where everything feels like it's falling apart right before it all comes together. Most people think they're failing in that moment. They think the universe is saying, no, but what if that moment isn't rejection? What if it's a test? A final test? The kind that appears right before everything you've been asking for finally arrives. And if you don't recognize it, you might walk away just seconds before your breakthrough. Resistance tends to intensify right before a breakthrough because you are approaching a shift that disrupts your current identity and comfort zone. As you move closer to something you've been working toward, whether it's success, growth, or a personal transformation, your mind and emotions begin to react. Old patterns, fears, and doubts surface, not because you're moving in the wrong direction, but because you're moving beyond what is familiar. The brain is wired to protect you from uncertainty, so it interprets change as risk. This creates internal resistance in the form of hesitation, overthinking, or even a sudden urge to quit. At the same time, external challenges may also increase. Situations may become more difficult, plans may seem to fall apart, and unexpected obstacles can appear. These moments can feel like setbacks, but they often serve a deeper purpose. They push you to strengthen your belief, refine your focus, and prove your commitment. If everything stayed easy, there would be no real transformation. Resistance forces you to grow into the version of yourself that can actually handle the success you're asking for. Many people misinterpret this phase as failure and give up too soon, not realizing they were closer than ever to their breakthrough. The intensity of resistance is often proportional to the significance of what lies ahead. When you learn to recognize this pattern, you stop seeing obstacles as signs to quit and start seeing them as confirmation that you are on the right path. Instead of resisting the resistance, you move through it with awareness, understanding that this discomfort is not permanent, but a necessary part of crossing into something greater. Doubt often appears at the most critical moment, right when you are closest to what you've been working toward, and it challenges the very foundation of your belief. It doesn't come loudly at first. It starts as a subtle question in your mind. What if this doesn't work? And if you give it attention, it grows stronger. This is where the real test begins, because doubt is not just a feeling. It's a choice point. You are being asked to decide whether you will trust what you cannot yet see or surrender to fear based on the absence of evidence. Certainty, on the other hand, is not built on proof. It is built on inner alignment and trust. It's the ability to stay grounded in your vision even when external reality hasn't caught up yet. Anyone can feel certain after results appear, but the deeper level of growth happens when you maintain that certainty before anything changes on the outside. This is what separates those who eventually succeed from those who turn back. When doubt shows up, it's not a signal that something is wrong, it's an invitation to strengthen your belief. The challenge is that doubt often feels logical. It presents reasons, past experiences, and potential risks to justify itself. But certainty requires you to rise above that logic and connect with a deeper knowing. It asks you to hold your vision with conviction, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. In that moment, your response determines your direction. If you give in to doubt, you reinforce limitation, but if you choose certainty, you reinforce possibility, and that shift in internal state is what ultimately shapes the outcome. Emotional mastery is the ability to remain steady within yourself regardless of what is happening around you, and it becomes especially important when you are approaching a breakthrough. In moments of uncertainty, your external reality may not reflect what you desire yet, and this gap can trigger frustration, anxiety, or impatience. Without awareness, these emotions can take over and shift your energy into a state of lack, where you begin to focus more on what is missing rather than what is possible. This is where many people unintentionally move further away from what they want, not because they are incapable, but because their emotional state becomes inconsistent. Mastery does not mean suppressing your emotions or pretending everything is perfect. It means observing what you feel without letting it control your actions or define your belief. When you can acknowledge fear without feeding it, or experience doubt without acting from it, you create space between your emotions and your decisions. In that space, you gain clarity and control. You begin to respond consciously rather than react impulsively, and that shift changes everything. Gratitude plays a powerful role in this process because it redirects your focus. Even when results are not visible yet, choosing to appreciate what you already have stabilizes your internal state. It reminds you that progress is still happening, even if it is not immediately obvious. Emotional mastery also involves patience, the ability to trust timing without forcing outcomes. When you can stay calm, grounded, and aligned during uncertain moments, you signal readiness for what you are asking for because you are no longer dependent on external conditions to feel whole. Letting go of control is one of the most difficult yet essential parts of the manifestation process because it requires you to release the constant need to manage every detail of how and when things will happen. The mind naturally wants certainty, timelines, and clear steps, so it tries to force outcomes or predict results. This often leads to overthinking, stress, and attachment to specific scenarios. When you hold too tightly to a particular outcome, you limit the possibilities and create resistance because you are operating from a place of fear rather than trust. Surrender does not mean giving up or becoming passive. It means continuing to take aligned action while releasing the emotional attachment to the result. You still move forward, make decisions, and stay committed to your vision, but you stop trying to control every step of the journey. This shift allows you to open yourself to opportunities that you may not have considered before. Often, what is meant for you arrives in ways you could not have planned, and trying to control the process can prevent you from recognizing those paths. Control is usually rooted in the fear that things will not work out, while surrender is rooted in the belief that they already are. When you let go, you move from a state of tension into a state of flow. You become more present, more aware, and more receptive. Instead of forcing results, you allow them to unfold naturally. This creates a sense of ease and alignment, where your actions feel guided rather than pressured, and your energy remains steady even when outcomes are still uncertain. An identity shift is the deepest level of transformation in the manifestation process because it goes beyond what you do and focuses on who you believe you are. Many people try to change their results without changing their identity, which creates a gap between their desires and their reality. You may take action, set goals, and stay motivated for a while, but if your internal self-image remains the same, you will eventually return to familiar patterns. This is because your identity acts like a filter, shaping your thoughts, decisions, and behaviors in ways that keep you consistent with who you think you are. To truly receive something new, you must become the version of yourself who already has it. This does not mean pretending or ignoring your current situation, but rather embodying the mindset, habits, and emotional state of that version of you. It's about asking yourself how that person would think, how they would respond to challenges, and how they would carry themselves even in uncertain situations. When you start aligning with that version internally, your external actions begin to change naturally. This shift also requires letting go of old labels and limiting beliefs. If you continue to identify with past failures, fears, or insecurities, they will continue to influence your present choices. Growth demands that you release the version of yourself that is no longer aligned with where you are going. As you do this, your confidence strengthens, your decisions become clearer, and your energy becomes more consistent. Over time, your reality begins to reflect this new identity, not because you forced it, but because you became a match for it